Welcome, everyone, to the Adeptus Ridiculous podcast. I'm one of your hosts, DK Diamantes. I'm being joined by Bricky, and I don't want to waste too much time on the intro because I have been
profanity excluded by the grace of the Emperor
like crazy today, so we're pretty much going to get right into it after I give a shout out to the patrons over at patreon.com/adeptusridiculous. You guys have been immensely generous. If you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast, you can go over there, support us. There are tons of bonus features. You get Discord access. The Discord is always bumping. There's always people chatting about their favorite Space Marines, about their favorite Chaos factions, about what they're doing at the tabletop, and just it's a great time. You get access to blooper reels, which I'm sure there'll be a few from this episode, and you also get access to HD posters from time to time, which are super dope. So definitely, if you enjoyed today's podcast, go there, check it out. Give us a hand. We'd appreciate it. This podcast is possible because of viewers like you. Anyway, so today's episode, we are going to be talking about the Custodes? Bricky, right?
I think it's Custodes.
Custodes?
Custodies?
Okay, I've always said Custodes when I saw it, because it's spelled kind of funny, right?
It is funny. It's Custodes, which I can understand why it would sound like Custodes. But I think with the weird way that GW does their naming sequences, it sounds more like, because they have like the Adeptus, it's like Astartes, right, which are Space Marines. And that's Astartes, I think. Astartes. Yeah, Astartes, TES, and this is Custodes. Nuts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. All I know about the Custodes, whatever
nuts.
The fuck you want to call them. The Custodians.
Did you not hear me the first time I said that?
I didn't hear it. It didn't come through on my end. I didn't hear it. Otherwise, I would have laughed and been like, that should be the t-shirt episode, the t-shirt idea for this episode.
Custodes nuts.
Custodes nuts. Yeah, dude.
God damn it, we're such children.
Yes, dude, we came up with Doge Van Dyer.
That's classy. Thank you very much. How dare you? You know, actually, speaking of classy, I wanted to, when you were mentioning at the Patreon, I was thinking to myself, man, all of those are like Discord Nitro people are so stoked when they come into our server, because what's the most recent emote we just added? Morka S.
That's right, we did add Morka S.
We got Morka S, we've got Tyrannid Pog and Admech Pog, we've got Smad Tau waving Commissar, and of course, you know, Smug Sister of Battle, which is just king shit right there.
Yeah,
I was
in
thinking
addition
about
to
that.
all of the great stuff, we have some top tier emotes, dude.
It's been popping up in my server a little bit, the Smug Sister. It's quite useful. It's very pliable. I like it.
I was curious.
I think we gotta get a Custodes one now.
Yeah. Custodes nuts. I was wondering, since we got Gorka S, when are we gonna get like Morka S? Because you could do
it should be it should be the exact same emote, just like horizontally flipped and in a different color.
Yeah, and like orange.
Yeah, perfect. Gorka S and Morka S.
You could do the whole Pepe emote line just with Mork and Gork.
That's pretty good. We could have like Mork be Pepe and Gork be Peepo.
Ship it.
Oh no.
You heard it, Shy. Find an artist, ship it, make it happen. Anyway, before we diverge too far, all I know about the Custodes nuts is that they're a lot of gold. They were like really gold armor, right?
Pretty much. I mean, I think we've discussed the Custodians multiple times in the past, but we've never like done a full in delved episode on them. Right. I'm actually really excited for this one in particular because I actually own a full Custodians army. It's one of my few armies that I have. I say few armies. It's one of my armies. They're barely classified as an army. Like a full Custodian army is like 20 something models because these guys are such absolute chads. But I'm actually quite a fan of the Custodes. They're I say everything is my favorite. But they're up there on factions I like. I'm not gonna say favorite, but I like them. I like them quite a bit.
There's a lot of cool shit in Warhammer. Like you can have multiple
there really
favorites.
And Custodians, especially now, are actually, it's a really good time to talk about them. Like right now, great time because they're being put in the forefront of 40k again. For a while, they were just kind of like that thing in the background, but now they're actually getting quite a lot of new content, and more primarily, they're very, how you say, like, they have a lot to do now because they haven't retroactive, they haven't retconned anything. GW like they love to do, But with that, oh my God, Shai's already made Gorka S.
Gorka S exists! As we're recording this, Gorka S now exists, and it is literally the inverse in orange. Oh, it's great.
Okay, I don't want to stray too far because I'm sure if you're watching this on YouTube, she'll put it in like the little box, but damn it. Anyway, so anyway, the Custodians, if we go way back in the day, right? Remember way back in the, like right after the world turned into a Mad Max hellhole, the Emperor was like making his early Astartes and stuff. Well, at the time, he made the Custodes, which were at the time were known as the Legio Custodes. Right now they're Adeptus Custodes, but like Astartes are chapters, right? Like the Space Marines are chapters. Back in the day, they were legions. So it's kind of like Legio Custodes, Legion Custodes, Adeptus Custodes.
Oh, okay.
I know someone probably has like actually me where it's like they were called the legions back then, Bricky. But it's like me referring to the fucking JoJo parts as seasons. Like, tough, dude. I don't give a shit. Season,
dude.
I don't care. Absolute anime homunculus. You know, there's actually a unit in 40k called the homunculi, the homunculus.
Oh, I bet that's an absolute nightmare.
It's a Drukhari, so yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, the good old Gorka S. But anyway, the Custodians were like, it's one of those things where like, how did they come about is very, very hush hush and no one really knows. Basically, Emperor was making all of his like Thunder Warriors and stuff before he made those Thunder Warriors. He was very much doing like, hey, I'm gonna make a super Thunder Warriors and make my super guys. So the actual Custodians he had as his naturally personal bodyguard, hence the term Custodian, right?
Yeah.
And these guys, like these guys are extremely difficult to make. I remember hearing a bit because not all of the Custodians lore is fleshed out because for a while they were just kind of in the background and they're getting a lot new lore right now, which is why I like talking about them. But I always thought they were like genetically like created like in a tube. They were like test tube babies and shit, like they were like grown in a vat or something. I don't think that's entirely the case because the wiki gave me contradictory ideas where instead they were created similarly to Space Marines where they take a regular person and they just like form them, you know, but just in a significantly more difficult way to do it. Like really, really hard to create them with the sheer amount of fuckery you gotta do to both their brain and their body.
So you said a Custodian is like a super Thunder Warrior?
Well, not quite. Like back in the day, I was referring to that in the sense like he was making his Thunder Warriors, but he was making like his other secret group, which is just way better than them.
Okay. Because in my head, I was like, if he felt the need to kill all the Thunder Warriors because oh boy, they could become a problem. I was like, ooh, if you made a super version of that, isn't that like a bigger problem?
That would be the case, but no, they were like his contingency plan. They were like his really fancy ones. It's like it's like if you plan on running a coup, you tend to have the people you really trust close by and you don't kill them.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. But basically, the Custodians, like, you know that height chart everyone memes about where it's like, here's a normal human, here's the Space Marine, here's a Primaris Space Marine. The Custodians are like one below the Primarch. They're like the super. It's GW is annoying sometimes, but they're like, okay, we've made Space Marines, but then we've made the Primaris Super Space Marines, and then we made Grey Knights, which were super Psyker Space Marines, and Custodians are super Space Marines. That's basically what they are. Custodians are like just under Primarch size. They're actually fucking enormous.
Yeah, I mean, if they're even remotely on the same scale as a Primarch, that's a big boy.
Yeah, well, not quite. They're still like a foot
they're
or
a little
so
smaller,
shorter than him,
but that's a large individual.
It is huge, and in fact, due to the fact that they were so hard to make, their numbers never exceeded 10,000. Which in the Warhammer world is actually absolutely jack nothing.
I was gonna say, that's minuscule in Warhammer.
For once, GW had an ounce of subtlety, and they were like, Custodians will never, ever exceed 10,000, just simply due to the sheer like difficulty in creating them. Now, these like Custodians, they are about as honed as a weapon as you possibly can. Like, their mental prowess is ridiculous. Like they're not just physically strong, right? Where they can react in nanoseconds. Like these guys are nigh immortal. Like custodians are basically immortal. They are immortal to an extent. Like they will not die from a natural causes, or at least it'll take like hundreds of thousands of years. I don't think there's been a record of a single custodian that has ever died from old age. Ever.
Okay.
They're basically immortal.
In Warhammer, who dies from old age though? Has anybody actually like died from old age? Because it seems like in Warhammer,
as in not in combat.
Yeah.
Oh, well, well, probably
like
not because it's boring.
In Warhammer, die in like a bloody battle where trillions of people died, a planet got virus bombed, and then Demon Prince came in and ate your fucking head or something.
Normally, yeah, because that's exciting. Like, I can't imagine having like a major character just like keel over one day from a heart attack. It just seems, unless it has a really good like irony to it, you know. But overall, yeah, it's more fun when they go out in a blaze of glory. I mean,
sure.
You know the tagline of 40k: in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. So it works out that way.
Yeah, sure.
But the custodians, being immortal, like they are mentally obedient to the core. Like they will stand at the Imperial Palace with the Emperor, completely stationary, completely still for decades. They will not move, and they will simply stand their watch there for actual decades, watching over an area. And the slightest fly that flies past them, without a moment's hesitation, they could strike it down with like immediate efficiency. They're like stalwart guardians. And it's weird because it's not just their reflexes, but like their mind is a dictionary. It's an encyclopedia with knowledge of all kinds of warfare and every possible way to kill something and how to counter it. They know everything you would know about how to fight the Eldar, about how to fight the orcs or the Tyranids. They know it all, and they can. It's like having, what's the Mortal Kombat movie? It's like, Sonya, I studied all your moves. It's like that shit. Kano? Yeah, it's Kano. It's like. And the old Mortal Kombat movie, me and my friends used to repeat that all the time. We were like, I studied all your moves.
But Kano was a bitch.
Yeah, but he did study all her moves.
He did. He studied all her moves. It didn't help him. But man, could he eat a turkey leg, right?
Yes, he could. I like how unapologetically Australian Kano is. He's one of my favorite characters. He reminds me of the new character in Apex. Fizzy. But what was kind of cool about the Custodians, even more so, is that they're extremely, it's hard to explain. You know how a lot of Space Marines and stuff, they're very like cold, calculated people. They don't feel like emotion as much. They keep things very steady to the core of figuring out like their mission. Custodians are intelligent. They're like philosophers. They're political advisors for the Emperor. They're his generals. The Emperor will go to they're his confidants. The Emperor will physically, back in the day,
can't do it so much anymore.
They will actually go to his custodians, and he'll be like, I need help. I need some assistance. Like, this idea, what do you think of this idea? Is this a good battle plan? What are we thinking about this idea? Like, they'll discuss the ideas of philosophy and advise him on how to deal with sensitive situations. They're like, custodians are artists. Some of them are poets. They're like...
That strikes me as so weird, thinking of a custodian. This giant custodian clad in all this crazy gold armor, writing poetry. Like, that just seems so wild to me. Like, out of all the craziness in Warhammer, these dudes writing poetry seems like just the wonkiest shit.
Well, it's because like they're intellectuals without the fedora. They're legitimate intellectuals.
Okay.
They're very, very intelligent. They're artists. They don't necessarily have hobbies, so to speak, but you know, like they can, and that's kind of the point. It's not like all right, good boys, watch ended, time to go paint a painting. Like it's more the idea that they're able to do that kind of stuff, and it wasn't. Each custodian is an individual. That's the cool part, is that in the faceless group of the Ultramarines, of blue, and they all have the same armor and everything, every custodian is an individual person. Their names are all different, which obviously sounds weird, but like a custodian's name gets longer for every battle they've fought and won. Oh. So really powerful custodians have names that are like a full novel long, and they remember the whole thing.
Ooh.
But of course they'll shorten it.
Long names, yeah.
But they'll shorten it. Like a major custodian right now is the Captain General, which is like the main guy, and his name is Trajan Valoris, and he probably has way more than that, but they cut it down a little.
Hey, every time you address him, you can't spend an hour just saying, "Hello, Captain Trajan."
Yeah, it takes forever.
Yeah,
there's a great comic. There's a great comic of a custodian, and it's like, all right, please write your full name here, and he just starts sweating. But the custodians, they've stood watch on Terra at the Golden Palace for forever. They have like a solemn watch in which they are unflinching, unmoving, stalwart bodyguards, right? Mm-hmm. They don't have any real warships. They have very few warships because their primary goal is the protection of the Emperor, but they can edict any vessel they need. If they can commandeer whatever the hell they want because they're fucking custodians.
Yeah.
However, a lot of them now, they carry like pretty great shame due to the Horus Heresy.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of like ingrained in their bodies. Like you had one job, make sure Big Emps didn't die, right? And you fucked it. So they carry this like huge shame in their chest right there. Now because of this pre-heresy, like seeing a custodian was equivalent to maybe seeing the president at the inauguration or something. Like it's pretty goddamn rare, and if you did see it, you'd be like, "Oh my god, so wow, I can't believe it," right? Or shaking hands with the president or whatever. Post heresy, it's like nigh unthinkable. A normal citizen of the Imperium, like it's nigh unthinkable to ever see one of these. Like it's called a Brotherhood of demigods. Like they literally, the idea of seeing one of these people will make your life. It's a huge deal to actually even visualize a custodian. However,
true. I guess because the custodians probably aren't going out and about much if they're supposed to be with the Emperor and he's not going anywhere.
Well, speaking of that, so that's what it was like. However, as of recently, if you remember, this planet named Cadia got absolutely bodied. And right after that happened, they resurrected with Belisarius' call. They resurrected Guilliman, and so Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, is back alive now, right? I think we've discussed that once or twice.
Hooray, I guess, Ultramarines.
He's okay. Guilliman's all right. If you have to appreciate anything about the Ultramarines, you can appreciate Guilliman. Okay. He's actually kind of Chad. But everyone has their favorite Primarch. Most of the time it isn't Guilliman, but Guilliman is like 5th edition D&D, man. Like everyone has their favorite edition, but if everyone's like, well, what about 5th edition? It's like, oh yeah, 5th edition is great. Not my favorite, but I play 5e. 5e is wonderful.
It's fine. It's all right.
So after that happened, when the Fall of Cadia died, that big like zipper, the Eye of Terror, that the zipper into the fucking warp space, that just like cracked and zapped and just absolutely like opened up a huge rift across the world, and then everything went to shit, right? Because this is actually a rather recent in the Warhammer timeline, but the Imperium was on the back foot, like they were hanging by a thread because all this warp space just snap, crackle, popped into everything. Chaos is everywhere, and because of that, the actual Terra itself was under huge warp storms and warp fire, and all of this fuckery was happening on Terra itself. And so the Custodians were tasked with putting down like doomsday cults and gigantic riots, and people just driven mad. Custodian wardens, which are these fancy custodians that protect like terrifying secrets in the vaults of Terra, they were spending their whole time stopping the horrifying monstrosities inside of it from getting out. And then a gigantic Khorne demon like barrage eventually arrived. They tore into real space with like 8 bloodthirsters, which are like the big fucking dudes with the big axes, just like all went onto Terra and started murdering the shit out of people. And so Guilliman, Trajan Valoris, Sisters of Silence, the Custodians and the Ultramarines, they all got together and they put down the rebellion. They put down the rebellions, they put down the demons after a long fought battle. But a lot of Custodians, like alive during the Heresy, died during this fight. And at that point, the Custodians were like, war from within right here is not enough. We need to start taking preventative actions. Like it's now time for us to go out and deal with problems that might have an issue with Terra. Because what if the Custodians went out to help stop the Black Crusade of Abaddon and destroy Cadia? Could these other Custodians still be alive? Like, that's too close, man. 8 bloodthirsters on Terra, that's too close.
Yeah.
So working with Guilliman and the Ultramarines, they were now renamed to the Adeptus Custodes, as they are now an active fighting force going on in the world. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And now the Custodians are going out and dealing with problems both within and the forces without. Okay. And so they can, like, they're out fighting off orcs, chaos, all kinds of different threats. Anything that could possibly threaten the safety of the Emperor and the Imperium.
Mm-hmm. How, but like before all of that crazy chaos nonsense, how normal was it, like, for like a Custodian to like actually die? Like,
it was rare as hell. It was super fucking rare. Like, they fought a gigantic orc Wa one time with this like dark, like it's like black skinned orc, or he had like really like gray skin or something. I don't know. It wasn't green. That was the point. And they sent like 1,000 Custodians, which is the most you've ever seen Custodians at one time, was against this orc Wa. 1,000.
Yeah, when you only have 10,000, it never exceeds. That's a good chunk of your Custodians. Yeah,
and they killed like I think 200,000 orcs, and then the orcs retreated and they lost 3.
Wow, that's you fought a Y and you only lost 3.
Well, it wasn't just them. There were many other like Marines and stuff there. Yeah, sure. They came to reinforce and.
Oh, okay, got you.
But yeah, I mean, like Custodians are one of the few factions in Warhammer where them being able to kill a laughable amount of things is kind of acceptable, because there's a lot of things that the Custodians do. The blood games, I mentioned that a bit ago. The Custodians have this thing called the blood games, where half of the fighting force attempts to make their way to the Golden Throne and kill the Emperor. Not actually kill him, but
like it's a training exercise.
Yeah, exactly. It's a training exercise. And so there's the defenders and the attackers, and that helps them find ways to create secret passageways and shore up their defenses and all that kind of stuff. But right. Also,
I vaguely remember you mentioning that in one of the Horus Heresy episodes, or maybe it was the Sisters episode. But I vaguely remember
it was
that
one of those.
Yeah,
I think it was the Sisters episode because they led them through like secret passageways.
Right. And then the Emperor was like, or what's her face was told the truth, or she figured out the truth because she got an audience with the Emperor or something.
Yeah, Mrs. Alicia Dominica.
Dominica.
One of my favorite, actually my favorite characters.
Bricky's Warhammer waifu. Got it.
Yes, sir. Well, she's dead now, but yes, sir. Saint Dominica, actually, now.
Pardon me.
Patron saint of the Ebon Chalice. I'm a nerd. I know it.
It's okay. That's why we're here.
I know. It's to create more nerds.
Exactly.
But the blood games in particular, that's like one of their main training exercises. But there's actually a stratagem, which is like an ability you can use in the tabletop, called Victor of the Blood Games. And it's the idea that somebody, I think Trajan Valoris, the big boy guy, he is the only person to ever successfully win 2 blood games. Only 2.
It's still a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's a very big deal, and it shows how just laughably strong he is and the Custodians are, because they can do things like this. They have these blood games to constantly train themselves, and like if a Custodian, they're constantly training, they're constantly making sure that their reflexes are like honed down. If a Custodian has his reflexes diminished by like 1/100th of a second, he's retired. Like,
wow, really?
That's it. He is retired. He every weapon, every piece of armor, everything the Custodians have and wear are sculpted and molded for their own personal use, for their hands. But when their reflexes, when their inability to think and move at a speed that is like godly, demi-godly, if anything, because they are called the Brotherhood of Demigods.
Demigods, yeah.
Once it goes down, they're retired. They hand in their armor, they hand in their weapon, and instead they become the eyes of the Emperor. They don a large black cloak, and they leave on their own personal ship to go find and collect secrets of incoming issues for the Imperium. So there's like they become like KGB spies.
Wow. So if there is any dip whatsoever in Custodian performance, you're retired, become a super spy.
There is no leeway acceptable when it comes to saving the Emperor.
Well, I mean, I guess when it comes to the Emperor, he is the most important, and you gotta have the most fittest fighting force.
Oh, yeah, he needs the most gains, unless they have, of course, some kind of other use, maybe like as like a general or something. They might stick around in that sense, but. I mean, that's the thing, is that the Custodians being there for so long, for a while, have been known to like kind of not have any emotion, be kind of like soulless automatons, because they don't start that way, but they've been standing still for 5,000 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you've been known to stand guard and not move and be just stalwart for decades at a time. I mean, how do you really become emotional? How do you not lose all emotional ties to everything except the job? Like, I get it's that. Weird.
The humanity's finest act the least human. It's a good little bit of irony there. I like it a lot.
They're just guard dogs.
Pretty much. Well, that's the space wolves. Sorry, those are the hounds. But the Custodians, though, with that like power and stuff, I do think they definitely start losing a little bit of their humanity as time goes on. Not because of like their genetics or anything. It doesn't like turn them into robots, but more so the idea that they just slowly kind of don't do anything and they become numb.
Yeah,
they're still proficient fighting forces, but
they have to.
I mean they're pretty cool, man. I mean, like some of their armor and their weapons, like they're clad in gold. They got like bright red robes and shit like that. They're really awesome. They obviously have a lot of like Roman. Is it Roman or Greek? Shit.
Oh boy, I don't know if I even want to comment, because I remember one time I was like, oh yeah, it's Roman, and it was Greek, and everybody was like, oh my god, how do you not know your history? It's like, I'm a dork, man. I haven't taken history in like more than 10 years. That was back in high school.
Hey, I'm getting a bunch of preteens telling me why I don't know Greek mythology after they just learned about it in 7th grade. Like, man, when you don't use it, you lose it. All I know is Hades.
Yeah, right? So I ain't even gonna comment. Roman centurions is what I'll say. Yeah.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, Ultramarines have the Roman heraldry.
Okay.
I'm not quite 100% sure. Oh wait, no, I'm stupid. They are Roman. Yeah, the Custodians are Roman. They're like the legionaries. Because they have like the plume, and the ones that have like the giant like tower shield and the gladius. Yeah, of course, duh, because they have like dreadnoughts named like the Gladius tanks and Gladius dreadnoughts, and they also have.
I was not privy to that information, so I'm
true.
Scot-free comment section.
That's true. You got away from this. I'm the stupid man here. I get to be made fun of again.
Again, you get to be actually again.
Some of their weapons though are kind of cool. Like their main weapon is something called the Guardian Spear. It's this like power spear. It's this long spear with this giant like crackling electricity blade that has a bolter attached to it. Did you play Metal Gear Rising?
Yes.
Sam's like gun blade.
Oh yeah.
So their spear at the end, like the way back at the end of the spear is a trigger. And on the way front of the spear is basically a bolter and a blade attached to it. So it's a combination of like firing a bolter with a big stabby part at the end. And they also have a similar variation of that with axes called the Castellan axes that hit a lot harder, but they're like a little slower.
Man,
things like that. They're actually like, I think Shai may have posted a picture in the Discord.
She did. They look those are Jesus, those are dirty looking. God.
I know they're pretty crazy because they can do that thing where they'll do a swipe and kill someone, but like on their way down the swipe, they'll fire their bolter at an enemy behind the person they killed, and like custodians have been known to 1v3, 1v4 Chaos Space Marines, and which is like 1v3 in Chaos Space Marines is a fucking feat. Even for a custodian, that's a feat, but it's possible. They truly are that strong, which is why on the tabletop, like one Space Marine, an intercessor, for instance, is like 20 points. A custodian is like 50.
Wow.
Like they are.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Sure, it should be.
They should be that expensive.
Yeah.
Are
they particularly hard to kill on the tabletop?
My fucking god, they are laughably hard. Okay, so custodians as an entire army, they hit on 2s, which is the best possible ballistic and weapon skill you can in the entire game. The only time they'll miss is if they roll 1s, whereas Marines are on 3s and Guardsmen on 4s. And it's the entire army that does that. They have the best armor save in the whole game, which is 2s. They all have like a force field, which is a 4 in case you get to the 2. So even if you fire like a missile at them, they can still shrug it off. They're tougher and stronger than Marines. A Guardsman has 1 health. Marines have 2. Custodians have 3. Their Terminators have 4. They are like, I wish I could truly explain how fucking impossible it is to kill these sons of bitches. Their goal in tabletop. Okay, so because they have so few models, there's this thing in the tabletop called objective secure. Long story short, let's say like you've got some Chaos Marines on an objective and I've got some Guardsmen on an objective. Mm-hmm. We have to figure out who has the objective, right? Sure. Basically, if you are using troops, like regular old rank and file troops, then the person who has that gets it instead of the other person because it's like their base unit. Okay. It's to incentivize you to take more troops so you don't like run like an all tank list or something. Mm-hmm. Custodians have that ability army wide. So they can contest everything. And so when you're that tanky, you can't be shot off the fucking objective because you're just so tough.
Jeez.
It is insane. Like I wish I could truly explain how impossible it is to kill custodians. They are probably the tankiest army in the entire game besides like Imperial Knights, but even then, Knights, you just like fire all your guns at one target and it'll eventually die. There's multiple targets. They're really hard to kill.
I'm also assuming Knights cost a shitload of points.
Yeah, one Knight is like 500 points, where a squad of like 10 Custodians is the same, and therefore harder to kill because if you fire it at Knight with like 6 damaged weapons, it doesn't overkill to other Custodians. It would just annihilate one of them, and then that would be the end.
Whew. So do many people run Custodians then, or is it not a very popular thing?
They're pretty popular right now, actually. Okay. They're cheap. Because you only need so many models, like 20-something models, they're actually one of the cheapest armies in the game.
And they're super tanky and strong.
They're like an A-tier faction right now. They got a good buff because they were kind of bad for a bit, but they are a lot better now because the game is a lot more about objective holding. But they're really tanky. They're really good at what they do. Their damage in shooting isn't that great, but their melee damage is pretty phenomenal. The idea of the Custodian army is the on tabletop style is the single strike. Like a Custodian is all about that single swing, right? That one decapitating strike. And that's kind of how it is on the table. Like turn 1, you're moving very slow. You're not going to get very far. You got to weather in a whole lot of damage. But by turn 2 or turn 3, the entire game will flip on its head. Your opponent will have a bunch of stuff, but you finally arrived. Your Terminators have come out of the sky. Your bikes have finally reached the back line. And at that point, a whole bunch of their army will die. You'll take over their objectives, and they can't kill you.
Yeah, there's no shooting you off the objective once you're on there.
Yeah, that's what makes it damn difficult to take these bastards out.
How many points do you usually get for an army? I know it differs, there are different army sizes, right? I know there's 2,000 point armies, there's 1,000 point armies. I know it kind of varies, but what's the Like
2,000 points is like the tournament official number. Like if you want to play like a normal regular game of 40k, 2,000 points is the number. Naturally, I never start with that. Those of you listening who haven't gotten into it yet, don't do that. You start with 500, and then you can turn it into 1,000, and then you go to 2,000.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, 500 points of Custodians is like literally 7 models. Like it's not even a joke. It's actually 7 models.
But still, that I was just like, man, an Imperial Knight being like 500 points. That's so much of your points.
Oh yeah, if you want to play Knights in a competitive environment, you run like 4. Or you run 3 and a couple like mini Knights, which are like 150 each.
It's so many points. So I was like, man, I'd so much rather have just a bucket load of Custodians than just like thump one.
They're a fun army, dude. They're a little hard to play sometimes in the sense of like weathering the damage can be rather difficult. You gotta be really good at like hiding them or like maneuvering them. But you just let the tankiness do your work, man. You just like watch as everything that they do just bounces off of you. There's a particular character called the Unkillable Bike Captain, which is just insane. So they have these awesome bikes. Like they have these really cool like eagle jet bikes, and he's got this giant lance like a joust. And what you can do with this dude is he has 7 wounds, which are 7 health, and you can make it 9. He's like toughness 6, which is really high. He still has this 2-up armor save, but then he has you can give him a relic that makes it so that he has a 3+ force field invul save instead of a 4. So his invulnerable will never go worse than a 3. But then you can give him that stratagem, Victor of the Blood Games, which lets him re-roll a single fail every single turn. So if you finally make him roll a 1, he can just re-roll it. And then, even if you still get damage him, you can give him this thing that gives him every time he takes a damage on a 5-up, it's ignored. He is so stupid, and because he has that objective thing, he can fly in the back line, like duke it out with your fucking knight, and then he has the objective during that period of time because he just doesn't care because he's fucking Custodians.
So that's why they call him the Unkillable, huh?
Unkillable Jeff. But the goddamn Trajan Valoris is actually a runnable character as well. He's the only named character in the thing, and he is a monster.
As well, he should be from what we've heard about him today.
Absolutely, the Custodians are a very fun army to play. Actually, I do want to talk a little bit about some of their shield hosts though before we. We've been talking a lot about tabletop stuff because they are a very popular army, and I think they're getting more popular thanks to their price, and because they're surprisingly not that hard to paint. You know, they look like they have a shitload of detail, and they do, but they're bigger models, and they're just gold. So you spray paint them gold.
Yeah, from the picture I saw that Shai posted, I was just like, you could probably get away with just getting like a metallic gold that you really liked, just paint the whole damn thing, do the old Nuln Oil trick, and just bathe the thing in oil, and congratulations, you've got a pretty decent looking Custodian.
The deed is done.
The deed is done. Little red for the plume, and you're done.
Yeah, get the capes going, and if they have capes, and then bam.
Yeah.
So actually, there's this cool thing. So similarly to how every faction has like a faction within a faction, like Cadian Guardsmen, Catachan Guardsmen, things like that. The Custodians have the same thing. They have a thing called shield hosts and shield companies, because a lot of their stuff is about like shields. Like they're called Custodian Guard, and like their main guys are called like shield captains and stuff like that.
Sure.
But some of these guys, they're actually like sub factions, and they're pretty cool when you learn about them. Like this one right here is called the Shadow Keepers. They're the wardens of the dark cells. What they do is that I think it was Thor Ragnarok where they had like underneath Odin's area, he had a whole bunch of like horrifying things like locked away.
Yeah, in his little vault, sure.
Yeah, so this is the same thing. The Emperor has a whole bunch of like galaxy destroying fucking shit in his vault beneath beneath his golden throne. And this whole shield host, which is clad in like a black armor with gold highlights, they spend the entire time sitting down there in a pitch dark room where no sound or light can escape, with these horrifying like creatures or artifacts or doomsday weapons or like chaos spawn. and they sit there for decades in pitch darkness waiting for problems, and their whole job is to like keep these things far, far away from anyone to ever know it. And in fact, sometimes chaos will be funny, and they'll like take one, and when they do, then they're like, oh fuck, and they'll go out on their ships to go find it and bring it back.
Mm-hmm. And
so that's like the purpose of like the Shadow Keepers. There's the Aquilin Shield, which is my personal favorite. I put my custodians like this. They have purple capes. And
okay.
I actually was gonna write a story. I wanted to write like a little short story or like a novel or like a screenplay or something about this. Mm-hmm. These guys are basically, they bear the responsibility to safeguard those that have usefulness to Terra. So what they'll happen is they're bodyguards, and they'll go out and they'll go find very specific people, a High Lord, a leader of like the Sisters, an Inquisitor, a general in the Imperial Guard, a specific Space Marine, sometimes people that make no sense, a random civilian in like a random hive world, or a one single guardsman, and then just out of nowhere in a giant flash of golden light, like 5 of these demigods appear around that person, and without consent and without like a word really, they will simply be there to protect him against all evil and make sure that he survives, because however they know, whether due to some future shit or psychers or whatever, this person is pivotal in the safeguarding of the Imperium.
That sounds super sick.
It is.
Just boom appear, and it's like these cool gold guys with these sick purple capes, and they just that's actually dope. I like the sound of that. I'd much rather be like one of them than those shadow guards who are just like, yeah, we're stuck in the dark for a decade. That's such a bum deal. Like, all of that talent's like, let's just sit in the dark for a decade. Great.
Yeah, but if one of those guys escapes, then
True,
Terra gets swallowed by Tzeentch or something.
Oh.
It's like unspeakable eldritch horror, like cosmic deities and shit. Like, damn. It's like really bad. The Necronomicon, I don't fucking know.
You couldn't give him like a nightlight though or something? Like...
No, because light feeds the demons. I don't know, man.
Oh jeez.
I actually wanted to write a story about like a guardsman on the front lines, and he's like gonna get killed, and then just like out of a flash of golden light, like a fucking Quill and Shield guy comes in and like saves him, and they do like a BT and the guy from Titanfall 2 thing, where you have this random guardsman has to be followed around by this gigantic 9-foot tall demigod, and like all of his comrades are like, what the fuck? And he has to deal with this like, yeah, man, I'm just gonna go have some food, and the custodian's like, what is food?
Just hanging out in the pub, and there's this giant 9-foot tall gold-clad demigod that's just like, standing next to you as you're just like,
you should drink less alcohol, guardsman. It will not allow you to serve the emperor better in an inebriated state. It's gonna be like a sitcom.
That'll be the best sitcom.
Oh no, it's my wedding, and he's like standing there right next to him. There's the best. He has like a little tux on.
No, he's just got a bow tie on all his gold armor. There's just a bow tie.
He's the best man at the wedding.
Exactly. He saved me so many times. You got to be my best man for the emperor.
It's like, I am the only. Like, how can I be the best man when the best man is the emperor?
No, it's just and then roll credits.
They play like the funny sitcom music. Yeah. What other ones are there? There's a couple other ones, like there's the Dread Host, which is like a terrorist variant. They're all about like causing fear, like pinpoint strikes, like killing like major generals and stuff, and slaughter like a warlord and watch them like run away. Like they'll go out and they'll like burn an enemy dude like alive, and then like carry his body into their base, and they'll like butcher their fucking like families and shit. Like they're all about like, Jesus. Back the fuck off, man. Like we ain't dealing with this.
I was gonna say, seeing Custodians is horrifying enough, and then you have ones dedicated to terrorism, and it's like, oh,
Conrad Kurz would really like this. They'd be stoked.
Fucking God, man. Custodians dedicated to terrorism makes me very, that's an uneasy feeling. Ooh.
Oh God, yeah. I know Conrad Kurz, who was the Primarch of the Night Lords, who was like the most terroristy man of all time, probably was like, nice guys.
Nice. Good shit.
There's the Solar Watch as well. They safeguard everything in the Sol system, so Jupiter, Luna, etc.
Yeah.
That's their main thing. There's the Emissaries Imperatus, which I actually don't know what these guys are. I remember they have shitty rules, so I never looked too much at them. I think they're like safeguards of like knowledge and shit.
Oh, okay.
They're rather impressive. All the shield hosts have their own very like specific task and all. And what's nice is that you can kind of, not in game, but you can probably like make your own type of deal. You'd be like, I'm gonna make this new shield host for my new sitcom, and it'll be perfect.
Now you gotta write that story, dude.
Yeah, I really do want to write. I have a lot of fucking 40k like screenplays I want to write. I have like 4 ideas. I even have a video game I want to make. I got everything I want to do, man.
We have a platform now, right?
We do. We
got a platform for it, so.
I want to do a horror movie where like, oh, you don't know what an arcoflagellant is, do you?
Oh, it sounds awful. That sounds terrible.
Oh shit! Never mind. I won't talk about this then.
Okay.
No need.
But we'll probably eventually get to it on the podcast at some point.
Possibly, hopefully. But
right.
besides that, there actually isn't a whole lot else I need to talk about the Custodians with. I mean, they have very like large amounts of very impressive battles, and like there's Constantine Valdor, which was like the major custodian guy during the Heresy and the major guy during like the Great Crusade of the Emperor. He was like the guy. Kind of like how Sanguinius was the guy for the Blood Angel.
Yeah.
Constantine Valdor is probably one of the more, I don't know how to describe it, but he's like probably one of the biggest heroes ever of like the Imperium. He's probably like as far as you can consider, if you had to, besides the fact that I just went on about terrorism, if you had to choose like a good like the good guys of 40k, I think I would go with the Custodians, because a lot of them being alive since the Heresy, they aren't like, they're not religiously corrupted. They're not zealots like all the other Imperium are, because they've just stayed to themselves. They just chilled.
Yep.
And so they're not like, their job is one thing, safeguard the Emperor, because if you don't safeguard the Emperor, the Imperium and the humans as a race die.
Collapse, yep.
And so in a sense, they probably are the nicest faction, but they also slaughter like Eldar children and hang their entrails from like pikes, because they're like, la-di-da-di-da, look at you, stupid Xenos. Ooh. So I don't know, man.
They're as good as you can be in 40k, right?
That's a good way to
40k,
say it.
You gotta be kind of a savage if you're gonna survive for any amount of time. So, well, they're as good as you can be in 40k. I like that. Yeah.
It works out the best it can. And also, I'm assuming you haven't watched the Emperor Text-to-Speech episodes much.
No, I haven't.
So the main idea is that the Captain General, the main guy, gave the Emperor his voice modulator, and now they're talking. But they have an ongoing meme where these other 3 shield captains look like the JoJo Pillarmen, and they play the theme song every time they arrive. They're like completely naked and stuff. But the idea is that the Custodians are like really, really, really gay, because they've done nothing but be like stuck with each other for 10,000 years, and so they've formed like a custodian brothel.
Oh wow!
And so they're all like, oh yeah, Shai's got the picture. Yeah, they're all they're all like really buff, oiled fucking men.
Those are the Pillarmen. Yep.
It's pretty funny. It's the only JoJo reference that's actually good, and it's the only one that will ever be good. But
wow.
Honestly,
okay.
yeah, I know what I'm saying. But it's pretty great. It's very funny when you know about the Custodians and you actually get a chance to watch the show. You're like, this is good.
Battle Tendency was pretty solid. I enjoyed Battle Tendency a lot. So
the fuck is Battle Tendency?
It's where the fucking Pillarmen come from, you idiot.
Just say season 2.
It's not season 2. That's still part of season 1. It's season 1, part 2.
Oh, fuck you! I don't give a shit. And yeah, that
season 2 is Stardust Crusaders.
I thought that was part 3, season 3. Fuck that, man.
That's part 3, but it's season 2.
Whatever. Listen, man.
Ricky loves it.
I got paid to watch all 5 of them. Okay, because they decided.
Wow.
They did it, and you know what? Part 5 is objectively the best because it's really well made. But part 2 is my subjective favorite because it's quite funny at times, and it's the only one that understood how meme humor is. Every other stupid part of that stupid show is just like Adam Sandler, haha, pee-pee, broken English, haha. But at least part 2 is like actually the fucking hero's journey. You got the asshole character given a time limit, has to train, learns how to be humility, and ends up saving the day. Like, a good fucking story, not this other bullshit. I hate anime.
I loved part 2. I thought part 2 is great. I agree with everything you said about part 2. So I'm with you. I've only gotten to part 3 so far, so I don't know what the other parts are like. So
part 3 sucks. Absolutely fucking sucks.
Where they first introduced stands.
It's so boring, dude. It's so boring.
It is pretty bad, actually. But we're getting a little off topic. This isn't a JoJo podcast, right?
No, and if it ever does, I'm quitting.
Well, you just turned it into one, man.
I was referencing the meme in text-to-speech. Okay, if I don't mention the Pillarmen in this episode, I'm going to get actually more.
Oh, fair,
and I don't want to get actually more. Okay, I made my reference. I did my thing. DK, do you have any questions? Anything I can alleviate? Anything I can tell you about the Custodians before I take us home?
I don't think so. I think any questions I had had brought up during the podcast, so I think we're good. Custodians sound like real badasses. I like the Custodians now.
Good.
Now,
I'm glad.
Yeah.
They are not only neat, but I would really recommend actually checking out some of their models too, because they do look very, very cool.
All right.
Okay, let me take us away. Thank you to everyone who came here and watched the Adeptus Custodes episode of the Adeptus Ridiculous podcast.
It's a lot of Adeptus.
It's a lot of Adeptus. I am very, and it's also, everyone says Adeptus Sororitas. It's Adepta Sororitas. If you want to talk about the Sisters of Battle, I'm actually you now. I'm actually you now. That's how it feels, fuckers.
Damn.
Thank you very much for watching. This was quite a fun one. I like this one. It was short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. Now we can remove everything in our mind that isn't fine dining and breathing and the Custodians.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you don't know SpongeBob.
No, I don't. Sorry, I don't know SpongeBob. I just assumed it was a funny meme. Sorry, man. Still haven't watched SpongeBob.
You can find me at Bricky on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. I stream very often, and I think I'm actually having some new content. Oh, no, that's right. This is coming out on Wednesday, so that I had content on Monday. Fuck it. Find me at Bricky. DK, where can they find you?
They can find me DK Diamantes at everything. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Real DK Diamantes on Instagram. Still not rolling in it. Still can't buy the name. What are you going to do?
That's how it'd be. You could also find Shy at Quite Shallow or Quiet Shy, depending on what she's interested in. I'm sure she'll be making many videos on the upcoming Outriders game, as there are more than enough bugs, even if it is kind of a fun game.
It is fun. The combat's fun. Story's garbage. A lot of bugs.
A lot of bugs. You know, and speaking of bugs, I just wanted to make the Tyranid players excited because I actually don't think we're going to be talking about Tyranids next. Get fucked. I'll show you the exact same treatment that GW gives you.